Welcome back, Outside Minds podcast. Because you've already seen too much, bro.
They only added it so it could be like a ritual.
They're saying there's these, the end of times, right? There's all these signs.
Do you think we would know? Like, do you think the general public would know this game?
Take a picture for $5. You have a purpose in life, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I'm your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
.420.
and I'm super duper excited for the guest we have on today. He is a hip hop artist, spiritual guru, psychonaut, private mentor. His name is OptiMystic Banks. Go ahead and let him know a little bit about yourself and where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is OptiMystic Banks, like you said. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, these kind of things. Also, Spotify, iTunes, all your streaming platforms.
Nice. So, like I said, you're a psychonaut. I know that DMT is a big part of your spiritual journey, so we might as well just dive right in. I'm going to ask you about it. Can you tell us about the first time you tried DMT and how it was kind of a tipping point in the way you kind of viewed things and the journey you were going on at the moment?
Yeah, so the first time I did DMT, I did the Toad DMT, the 5-MeO. And I really hadn't had much experience with psychedelics really in my whole life. I mean,
That's diving right in.
yeah, I mean, I'd done mushrooms a couple times, like, like for grad night at Disneyland, you know what I'm saying? Shit like that. But like, other than that, just really never really dived into it. And I was at a low point in my life, and I had a buddy that was working for me. And he was like, I think you need a reset. And I was at the point where I was like, fuck it, like nothing can get worse. Like, let's try this,
nice.
right? So he came over to my house, and then he prepared it, and he basically was like, yeah, you're gonna smoke this, count back from 10, and whatever it happens, just let go. And so I smoked, vaporized it, and I was like 10, and then whoop, like all of reality turned into black and white geometric shapes and imploded on itself.
Whoa.
And I felt like a zap through my brain.
Yep.
And I instantly knew, like, I just really fucked up. Like, I'm dying. And it was like the truest ego death, where it was like everything that I was just being ripped from me. Like, where's Banks? Where's my life? And no, I can't. And and I remember Matt saying, like, whatever happened, just let go. And I did not want to let go. I was like, no. But it was impossible. And where I ended up after I died is in the void. So it was basically complete emptiness. And in my void, there was like an empty orb, like an empty bubble. And then from there, some other kind of weird stuff happens. I like to keep between me and the divine.
Okay.
And then, I came back. It's a 15-minute trip, but it felt like forever. And it also felt like never.
Yep.
And in that void, it's like so peaceful. Like, oh my God. Like, soon as I died and I knew I was dead and I didn't have a body, I was like, oh, I feel bad for everybody that's still living, that are tripping on this. This is like so good. Like, nothing matters. Like, it all matters, but none of it really matters.
Nothing matters.
And then so when I came back, my friend grabbed me and he was like, what's the first thing you're thinking? And I was like, everything matters, nothing matters.
Wow.
And he was like, yeah, bro.
Nice.
So he stayed with me for a few hours and kind of like helped me as I was like very discombobulated trying to understand everything. So basically after that, then I kind of started having dreams that would come true. Well, it started out with like dreams that were
like premonitions and stuff.
Well, first it was like dreams of like past live stuff, and I didn't really know what it was. It was just like very vivid movies almost, and I was like, "What is this?
Like, this never happened to me, but it's like a vivid memory."
Yeah, and I also was having sleep paralysis, which I had it happen like 3 times, and that's fucking scary too.
Yeah,
like, it felt like dying every time again, where I was like, "Oh."
And correct me if I'm wrong, sleep paralysis is kind of like the adverse to like basically lucid dream or astral travel, because it's like when you learn to control that, it kind of makes you more prone to be able to lucid dream or astral travel, right?
You're probably right. I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, yeah, because I just think that I was also on hard drugs at the time too. I was smoking meth and
So
all
you were
this
having
kind of
past
stuff.
life dreams.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that like the combination of like the hard drugs I was doing with that DMT trip, it really just kind of rewired my shit in a way that, like, you know what I'm saying, where I was like,
It was
very,
a hard reward.
yeah, it was very confusing. And then shortly after that, I like broke up with my girlfriend who I'd been with for like 12 years. You know, left the house, left the everything, my job, and went and moved back home with my parents. And I was 33 years old when this happened. And then I started having synchronicities with the number 33, where it was like nonstop. I would see it everywhere.
You couldn't ignore it.
I was 33
Yeah.
when I had my spiritual awakening.
Okay,
as well.
yeah, it's very deep, man. It's and I was getting into like astrology and tarot to try to understand. It was like, in the void or like having that death experience. It was like.
It's like you're gaining the primordial knowledge, right?
Yes.
It's
There's
a lot
something
to-
magical about it too.
Yeah, well, there was just like it's like I had information, but I didn't know how to
Access.
Express it.
Yeah,
express
it was
yeah.
like I got it. Like when in that place where you're like, oh my god, everything makes sense. It all makes sense. Like it's just all one thing, and like it was just like it was all very clear to me, but I didn't know how to articulate it or make it like real,
Yeah.
So I was getting into like tarot and astrology to try to understand it.
Okay.
And then when I started having the number synchronicities, I hit up my friend Matthew, the guy who DMT'd me.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, why do you have 33 tattooed on your arm? And he was like, oh, that's my life path number. And I was like, what's that? And he was like, oh, it's a numerology.
Okay.
And he was the first one that told me, he was like, he did the calculations and he
Yeah.
was like, you're life path 3.
Wow.
So, and then that opened me up to numerology. And that for me was like it just, for whatever reason, the universe really
It
was
connected all
speaking
the
to
dots.
me like
Yeah.
in the numbers. And whoa, then going back to like reviewing my history, the places I'd been, the addresses, all these type of things. That 33 was just following me everywhere.
Yeah.
Whew, yeah, my mom was 33 when she had me. My brother and I are 2 years and 9 months apart to the day. That's 33 months.
That's
And it's crazy that you don't realize how all the synchronicities lead to the present moment until now.
Yes.
And then you realize the synchronicities are just a byproduct of the fact that everything is now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that the synchronicities, my friend Matt explained it to me when I was totally, my crown chakra was wide open. I had no discernment. I was not grounded. And he was basically like, synchronicities are like you noticing you.
Okay.
Like your higher self,
higher self,
and
yeah.
like you noticing you, and it's kind of like a wink, and it's almost like your higher self being like, yeah, you're in control of all of this. You're just not fully conscious of it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like, I mean, I've mentioned it before, but one of my DMT trips, I was floating above myself on my couch. I saw myself passed out, right? But I question, like, who am I if that's me, right?
Deep, yeah.
Who am I if that's me in the physical? And even deeper, I touched my leg and I seen it, but felt it in the third person. So it was, it was wild.
And it's like subtly teaching you the little lessons or the knowledge of the higher dimensions, you know what I mean? And like you said, you started to study tarot in order to kind of get some of these concepts,
like
understood.
the divine understanding of like what colors symbolize, what nature, elements, it was just like, and there's numerology in the cards, like it's all in there.
Yeah.
And so once I kind of just understood the very basics of what like all these things kind of meant, now you can use anything as a tarot card basically, because it's like you're realizing it's all manifesting from the same divine.
Yeah. I have a Batman above my bed that's doing the fucking pointing up and looking down.
above, so below.
I was gonna ask you about, because I was listening to your project. You have the Star and then you have the Magician.
Yeah.
And the average Joe would hear those titles and they wouldn't know that they're tarot card titles.
Yep.
And I was gonna ask you, because the Magician is one of my favorite cards. It's basically the symbolic representation of as above, so below. Also represents manifestation. And I was gonna ask you about the meaning of that card to you and how it was a significant concept in your life and how it played a role in that album in particular.
Well, it's a card that's also like ruled by Mercury, and I'm a Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So it, in a way, it is kind of a Gemini card. It's also like a Virgo card. My brother's a Virgo. But you know, when I was having a lot of synchronicities with tarot cards where it's like I kept on coming up that like, Banks, you're the magician.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's fucking do this then, right? So that's why I did that.
Nice. What about, can you talk about the star as well?
Yeah, well, you know, we're coming into officially the age of Aquarius, and that's the Aquarius card. And, you know, it's about like dreams and like following aspirations and also being a part of the natural flow of the universe. So I just felt like that was appropriate of where I was.
Yeah. I want to talk about your shirt real quick. It's I'm a guitar player and I'm just laughing because there's one string on it and it says "Live Simply." Obviously,
funny.
it's intentional. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I bought this shirt probably like right before I woke up. Actually, it's kind of a synchronized thing.
Okay, yeah.
And I just, you know, it's one of those shirts I like to wear every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, what I discovered is from having this life of like luxury, I guess, in a way, of like, you know, I was making really good money, had a really nice house. My ex, you know, she's a veterinarian. Like I was living the what everybody wants.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like house in the cul-de-sac, white picket fence, like all that shit. You know what I'm saying? And I was just, but I wasn't expressing my music. And basically when I lost everything, it really made me realize how little I needed. And then I went in deep to that kind of like minimalism. And like, even still, I only have like 4 or 5 shirts. They're all pretty much like shirts that I make.
Nice.
And like, yeah, just the minimalism of things, because every object in your reality is being manifested from you. You're like holding space for it. So the less clutter you have, the more space there is for new energies to come in.
It's kind of like they say, like a clean bed, you know. You make your bed.
Cleanliness is close to godliness. That's why they say that, dog.
Yeah.
I mean, because yes, it can come back in the form of physical objects, but it could also be in the form of new energy like love, friends,
Definitely.
ideas, right? These type of things. So when you keep it clean, and again, it's just when you don't have as many things, there's less maintenance to do. You're just like, oh my God, I was living within my means, but now I'm learning like, why the fuck am I like, it's just like when you sing, like I could sing really fucking crazy and high and I can sing really low, but there's like a certain place that's kind of in the, it's like within my means.
There's
that
a
sounds
balance.
really good. You know what I mean? So same thing with your life. If you can kind of just learn a little bit more stoicism and patience and minimalism, opens up, man.
Yeah, it has real Buddhist energy to it. You know what I'm saying? That shirt and everything. And I want to talk about duality and non-duality real quick, because you talked about how not having a lot of things kind of gives you a little bit more room to have other things attract you. And you can kind of understand that philosophy when you understand the philosophy of duality. And then to understand the philosophy of duality, you have to understand the philosophy of non-duality. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And my astrology I'm like a Gemini sun, I'm a Libra moon, and a Pisces rising. So those are like all about duality.
And balance, yeah.
So I learned, I mean, like from a very young age, I've always been able to kind of look at both sides of things and be like, oh, that's interesting. But anyway, so we are all one. That is the non-duality. That is the only truth. Everything else after that is literally just for fun and entertainment and inspiration and growth. And the way that the non-dual was able to experience itself was by fractaling itself, like in the holographic nature. So it had to break itself up into a light and a dark, antithesis of each other. So that way the light cannot know itself amongst the light. The dark cannot know itself amongst the dark. So we manifest the other, or as non-dual manifested, it's like its offspring basically, right? And so, and then from that simple understanding of the light and the dark, which is simply what has been illuminated and what has yet to be illuminated, that manifests outward in infinite ways. And you know, you can't have the light without the burn of the flame, you know what I mean? So there's like a good and a bad on the light side.
Yeah.
And also the dark side is the same way, because what is unknown is scary, but often on the other side of that is like amazing things, you know? It could be love, it could be inspiration, it could be, manifestation, whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, duality and non-duality, that's a lot about balance. And you talked about how, basically you talked about how spirit manifests itself into matter. And when we talk about spirit versus matter, we do have to make sure we have a balance. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because what I've noticed is that, the more people chase after and identify with the material, the further they're away from spirit. And the funny thing is, the more you're aligned with spirit, you can manifest anything material. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Keep in mind that all beliefs are true and all truths are paradoxes. So if you believe that being more spiritual is going to help you manifest things, then that's what will happen. If you believe that that's a bunch of bullshit and you need to work hard to make it happen, then that's what's going to happen. If you believe that you're a piece of shit and you don't deserve it, then that's what's going to happen.
Facts.
With that being said, like I said, we're all one. Everything else after that is all for fun. And I believe that there are energies, spirits that are part of the structure of reality and the different dimensions that interconnect us, and that, they are harbingers of good and evil. But that what's so interesting about our realm on Earth, and this is why a lot of these entities are jealous of us, actually, is because we have this ability here to like totally transmute from dark to light and light to dark. And in the other dimensions, you are either a light being or a dark being, and that is it. And there's no like question, and they actually work together. Everybody has their place, you know what I mean? But that's why this is such an interesting place, and a lot of entities want to incarnate here.
Interesting.
Wow. That's super interesting. I'm going to go a little bit off the road right now. I feel like, this kind of isn't conspiracy, but I guess it is a little bit. Psychedelic, spirituality, conspiracies, they all kind of converge. I'm super into Atlantis. What do you think about Atlantis?
I 100% believe that there was an advanced civilization prior to our current civilization. And I believe that there are infinite timelines. So there's also timelines where that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like essentially, if you believe in Atlantis, then like you will go into a future timeline where we will find evidence of it, essentially, right?
Oh, okay.
Which is why we have things like the Mandela effect, right? Where there's contradictory shit, and we're like, how the fuck? Because there's infinite timelines.
Anything that can happen will happen.
Yeah. And sometimes it might be getting a little off topic here, but like there's stuff about the demiurge. Have you ever done research into this?
Yeah.
Right. So the demiurge essentially, like, I don't know if it comes from Jewish mysticism or how deep
Demiurge, I believe, is Gnosticism.
Okay. Yeah. So and basically that the demiurge like created this realm. And this is what I find so interesting, that they specifically say that like he did it to like the best of his ability with like what he had to work with. Okay. Essentially. And so I think that that's why there's a lot of glitches.
Okay.
Because there's just like it's perfect, but like in a strange way, it's also kind of very staticky and fucking weird. Like,
well, also I've heard you talk about it before. A lot of people, I think this is the reason why people are so much into simulation theory. It's because it's a very left brain and logical way to explain what they've been explaining for years. The Kabbalah calls it Ein Sof. Hindu calls it Brahma. I believe Hermeticism calls it the monad. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that I don't judge anyone, but I think essentially that like the simulation theory is a little bit of a limitation of your mind, because again, at the highest level, we're all one.
Yeah.
So like, if your idea of the simulation theory is going to help you be a better person in your evolution, then you should totally do that.
Okay.
But if that's like a negative kind of like conspiracy thing that you're just going down rabbit holes to be like, see, they're all fucking us. They're all, it's all fucking illusion.
Yeah.
Then that's not very healthy. But so that's why, like, again, so the way I look at it is highest level, we're all one.
Yeah.
And then like everything after that is just like, what do I have the most fun with? Like what makes the most sense to me?
Kind of what I think is like flat Earth. I tell people your Earth might be flat.
Yes.
Mine's round. It's perspective. It's what you believe it to be.
I think that the Earth cannot be observed objectively. I think that's the real issue. And people aren't quite understanding that. I don't think anything can be observed objectively, but I think that for sure what planet Earth is a wavelength of frequency.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we got the, the craters, we got the mountains, and it's just like this.
You can measure the frequencies of the Earth.
Yeah. So like, I also kind of tend to believe that it might be kind of a toroidal field shape.
I get. That's totally what I'm into.
Yeah, like a hole at the top and the bottom. I think
The funny thing about flat Earth theory is that they'll argue up and down is this way because it looks that way, but it's like our eyesight's already working against us, because if you're in a hotel and you look all the way down the hallway, the door frame you're standing in goes all the way around you, but the door frame you're looking at could be, an inch small. That's just the way it's presented to you, just because of the way our eyesight works.
So there are there are certain things with the flat Earth theory where it's like, this is definitive, like you guys are tripping, like, they raise the light up and that,
they
right?
prove themselves wrong.
But, however, there's a lot of trippy stuff.
Oh, there is.
It's all very
100%.
trippy,
is.
and like when you're looking at the horizon and it's like always where your eyesight is, even if I'm at the top of a building or down there, like what the fuck?
Exactly.
Like, what I'm saying? There's always, there's some, and again, like there really are no pictures of a full Earth, you know? And I also I'm not sure if we can, even if we think about it physically, because, the sun is never shining on 100% of the Earth, right? So we might only be able to see what flat earthers basically say. It's like a concave, kind of like a lens looking thing.
Yeah.
That might be all we can really see from out there.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why NASA is like, so we're not going to release any pictures. That's just going to fuel more of the flat earthers,
Yeah.
Not, again, I think that, at the highest level of black government stuff, they know exactly what's going on.
Oh,
with all
yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely. I mean, to me, it's like kind of the argument it kind of almost doesn't matter at the end of the day, because when you know about the principle of mentalism, you know that your reality is projected through your consciousness. So it's like you're only going to see what your five senses are perceiving and running through your brain, basically.
Yep.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that people that are into conspiracies end up a lot of times becoming spiritual, because
for sure.
What do we find out about the universe? That it is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's like conspiring for us all the time, and it's doing weird fucking magical things all the time behind the scenes. And it's like, why are you doing this? Oh, and then you find out later why, right? So, the universe is a conspiracy.
That's what Sam Tripoli says. Conspiracies lead to spirituality every time.
Yeah. Are there certain divination systems or magic systems or religions or Western occult systems that resonate with you more than others or anything like that? I mean, to me, I study a lot of Gnosticism, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and Hinduism and stuff like that. I feel like sometimes the knowledge comes to me easier through different channels. Can you describe that a little bit?
A lot of people ask me, like, what books should I read? Or, like, what books have you read? None. Wow. I'll be honest with you.
You can get a lot of this knowledge just from TikTok.
Well, for sure. But for me, it was really
channeling stuff.
It was coming from my dark night of the soul.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
When I was like very, very sad, and I was like, I have to understand, like, why is this amount of like sadness allowed to be experienced? And the universe did not disappoint. It was showing me things, and it was just, I would have dreams of like being in outer space, and it would show me like everything was broken down into like different like layers, and I was like, oh, okay, and so it was like, it was always showing me things like in my dreams. And it was actually when I told my brother, like, I think we're all one, and that like, so like we're all God. And my brother was like, that sounds a little bit like kind of like Taoism or Buddhism. And I was like, oh. And then so again, it's just like, I mean, I grew up, I went to a Lutheran high school. So that was like my introduction to like Christianity.
Yeah.
And I was always down with like the stories, and I thought it was really cool, and I understood the messages. But I always thought it was weird that something was more special than me, or that it was more special than anyone.
Anything. Yeah.
And that I had to worship a god. It felt so weird to me. It felt so like fear based, you know.
That's how I grew up in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and so I was always like, yeah, okay, I got to go to school here, whatever. I'll go to chapel and like, take my religion classes or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I'm like, not really into that. And then after high school, I started getting deep into like ancient alien stuff and like, like 9/11 happened when I was in 8th grade.
Yeah, I was in 6th, and I already knew then something's fishy.
So that was like my introduction to like, whoa, nothing is what it seems. This is crazy. And,
Yep.
And then my old hip hop group, we made like an album that was like all about conspiracy theories and
dope,
stuff.
dope.
Yeah. What's the name of that? Plug it.
My old hip hop group was called the Sophisticats.
Oh, sick.
And I think we're on Bandcamp.
Oh, yeah.
And
Old school.
that album is called Global Domination.
Oh, nice.
It's all about aliens, conspiracies, and
Sick.
stuff like that. It was
Sick.
a fun one. Yeah.
Nice. So you have a song called "Prophet" on The Magician. When you were talking about the 3-trunk elephant, were you talking about Ganesh?
No, I see that when I do DMT.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's like a spirit guide or like a gatekeeper or something, but like when I do the microdosing DMT, like the plant-based kind, that's like kind of like the first place that I go to, and I see an elephant with 3 trunks.
Wow.
And it's like, and I'm like, what's up? And it's like, and it just kind of lets me keep going.
Is it pink by any chance?
When I do DMT, and a lot of times when I get vision, like clairvoyant visions, they're like almost like outlines with like no actual
definitive
color to them.
Yeah.
It's almost like a bubble where it's like a rainbow outline kind of. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Nice. So you do have a new project coming out. It's another tarot inspired project. It's called The Lovers. Can you tell us when that drops, where we can find it, and a little bit about the project?
Yeah, so it's dropping May 26th. That's my birthday.
Oh, yeah. Check that out.
You can find it on all the streaming platforms, OptiMystic Banks. And yeah, so this one, the Lovers card is the Gemini card. It's about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I wanted to kind of do a little bit more darker kind of stuff.
Okay.
A little more kind of like moving stuff. So it just made sense with the Lovers and all that kind of stuff. I'm still going to have some optimistic songs on there, obviously. I can't help but do that.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting, synchronized with everything that's kind of going on in my life right now, because I feel like I kind of truly embodied like my divine masculine and my divine feminine within myself,
Nice.
So it's like, it's all just like kind of,
Yeah.
when you're creating, everything perfectly synchronizes.
It's that balance and the synchronizing. you
Yeah,
know?
we talked about it on the Absol Aleister Crowley episode.
Yeah.
I mean, most magical systems, most religions, and even the Monroe Institute, when they're teaching you how to astral travel and lucid dream, it's all about balancing the left brain with the right brain, with this divine masculine and the divine feminine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was first having like clairvoyant visions, I would be making music on my computer and like kind of like falling asleep, like the same like 4-bar loop would be on, because I'd be like making this beat, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, so I was basically doing like binary beats without even really knowing that's what I was doing.
You're putting yourself in a trance.
Yeah, and I would like
hypnotizing yourself.
And as I would nod out, like not as I would go full sleep, but that in between space, I would get like trippy fucking flashes of stuff and like visions of the future, visions of people who later I would find out was someone's dead, like uncle or something like that, like just like random, sometimes strange demon kind of things. It was just always just what the fuck. And then I learned later that when we're meditating or when we're sleeping, we pass through theta state before we go deep into our sleep state. And theta is where like Zen Buddhists go to when they meditate. That's where like clairvoyants go to. That's where people go to for like inspiration, these kind of things. So if you can like catch yourself,
That's the flow state, if you will.
Yeah,
right?
then you kind of have access to like all these different things. Yeah,
nice. Almost like you're plugged into the ether.
So if you're meditating, go to sleep with the intention of not going to sleep. Oh, that's the trick.
So I work nights, right? And often in the morning, like I'll go to sleep, but I'll wake up within a couple hours, and then trying to fall back asleep, I'll notice that like it'll be like a dream, but I was awake.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just start laughing.
That's a great time to meditate.
Yeah, I'll just laugh because I know what's going on and the stuff I believe in. It's not just a dream.
Oh yeah, it's just altered states of consciousness.
Yep.
It's crazy that you say that because I forget who it is. I don't know if it was Edison or Tesla, but one of them, they would fall asleep with a bell like on their finger or something like that.
just
So
to
it would
wake
him
them
up.
It was Edison, yeah.
And it would he would have their ideas and stuff like that. So that's
Yep.
basically what reminded me of what happened to you when you were making beats
exactly
and
what he
stuff.
was doing. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I'm getting all these ideas.
Yeah,
like if
yeah.
I can, like,
So I
it's-
need to stay in this. As long as
I think a
can.
lot of those guys were doing that, like Leonardo da Vinci. I think that's why most of his work and most of his art is encoded with the esoteric knowledge that you see. You know what I mean?
yeah, man. All those back in the day, bro. Like the mystics were the alchemists, were the scientists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, were the artists. They were everything.
We're the
right?
rappers.
All the-
And
almost,
so
yeah.
like they knew the same stuff that we're figuring
Yeah.
out. So they had to like kind of hide it in their art and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
And all the
So-
philosophers, they're all occult. They're all occultists.
Oh yeah, man. It's like it's so cool waking up and being like, oh, like I'm a part of like this really dope club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they call Gnosticism heretical, is because it's like they're interpreting the scriptures in an esoteric way instead of an exoteric way. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And the funny, I was thinking about it today, and it's funny because one of the questions I was going to ask you was that, do people ever trip on you or try to say you're doing like pagan worship or anything like that? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, Mother Mary's the divine feminine, so she's an esoteric symbol. The cross is kind of like the balance on the tree of life. That's an esoteric symbol. So a lot of people don't even understand that there is like magic and esoteric meaning behind some of the stuff that they practice. You know what I mean?
All symbolism is magic.
They're practicing rituals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every once in a while I'll get that, but for the most part, like what I really am trying to teach people is that it's all true.
Yeah.
So who am I to tell another version of me, another God, that what they believe in isn't the truth?
Yeah.
All right.
Who the fuck am I to do that?
Right.
And you should realize that too. And that it would bring us all so much more peace if we were just a little bit more. I mean, you know, you're always gonna have crazies and that kind of stuff.
For sure.
But that's why the ultimate thing to like really bringing this new earth is teaching these younger generations to continue to express their passions and express themselves fully as soon as they want to. Because like we tend to have this idea where we're like, yeah, be yourself, but don't be like that.
Yeah,
You know what I
be
mean?
the
Like-
parent who buys their kid the guitar.
Yeah,
Buy them an art set, you know?
It's just whatever. I mean, who knows what their passion,
Whatever their passion
might not
is.
be, you know, a traditional art form or whatever.
Sure.
But like, and it takes a while to figure out what your passion is. But that's why you got to kind of like figure it out when you're younger, you know. It's just, but we kind of get brainwashed in the society, you know what I mean, to go to school and get a job and buy things that I already have, to go back to my job, to buy things that I already have, to go back to my job. And it's just fucking insane.
It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, to bring it back to that a little bit, I have a theory, or I have like an idea that I like to pose to people is, what if every single religious book is all true, but our past isn't? You know what I mean? If the now is the now, and that's what we're experiencing as reality, it could be just like when you're reading a comic book of Batman.
Yeah, that's-
Whether or not you read the part where his parents die, you know that his parents died because they got shot outside of a theater. So that's just the backstory. That's the code that's embedded into this reality, which could explain why a lot of the religious myths happen to be kind of the same. And if you really look at on a higher dimensional level, it's kind of explaining it through sacred geometry, the tree of life, the lone circle that turns into the vesicle Pisces, that turns into the Holy Trinity and all that kind of stuff. So when you kind of start thinking about it in that way, it kind of unifies it into one idea and concept, and you start to notice all the...
This is the fractal nature of the holographic universe, right? So basically what a fractal is, it's the same but different. Just like when you have a child, it's the same but different, right?
Yeah.
So that all the different religions, they're fractals.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And also, the way I look at it is that there are infinite past timelines and there are infinite future timelines, and it's basically shaped like a toroidal field. So all like the past timelines are like funneling. And all the future timelines are funneling into this place that is the infinite
And it's
now.
all connected.
And it's all connected. So
And it all gets collapsed into the three-dimensional
and
reality.
you get to decide which one you're experiencing.
Choose your own adventure.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
That's life is a video game with cheat codes to me.
Absolutely, 100%.
Hell yeah.
I mean, because the truth is that like, we got bored being the all.
Yeah.
Bro, when I died and I was everything, I was only there for 15 minutes and I got bored and I came back. You know what I'm saying? So
Really?
So it really is just all trying to experience infinite ways, and if you look at it like that and like really try to have fun with it, it'll have fun with you.
You'll enjoy life too.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh yeah. It's the illusion of separation. Enjoy it. Participate in the matrix every once in a while.
Because everybody really wants to like save other people, and that's a big thing that I preach.
Save yourself.
Yeah, is that because of if it's all fractal and it's all like reflective of you. Like you don't need to save anybody else, because when you save yourself, you switch to a new timeline where then everybody's more reflective of this new version of you, right?
Yeah.
Now, again, there's still going to be yin and yang. So it's like, I'm always going to have enemies. I'm always going to have an antithesis, because that's how I know what I am not.
Yes.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like perfect the way that it is.
You can't have evil without good. You can't have good without evil.
You can't, because it's a mirror.
Yeah.
Like you really, it's like I have to know
what the opposite is.
I have to know what I am not to know what I am.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Hell yeah. Are there any other profound trips that stuck out to you, or life changing, or anything that you might want to bring up, or anything?
Yeah. The first time I ever meditated, I was telling you guys that story.
Yeah.
I'll make it quick, but basically, first time I ever meditated, I was at a very low point in my life. This was after I had done the 5-MeO DMT. It was probably like 6 months later.
Okay.
And still doing drugs, and pretty much I was like experiencing like psychosis, or like, maybe schizophrenia. I mean, now I realize that those are not at a deeper level. They're something else.
Yes,
they're like,
I agree.
It's like your crown chakra being wide open before you work through your lower chakras, basically. But so like I was having all these trippy experiences. My brother, who's a kung fu master, was like, I think you need to start meditating. So I went over to his house. We did some Tai Chi. Then we did a 20-minute guided meditation on YouTube. And it started out with like a forgiveness ritual. And at the end of the forgiveness ritual, it said like, imagine all of this negative energy like going up into a cloud, and then having it go like way up into outer space and having it dissipate. And as soon as I imagined that happening, I was like instantly in outer space.
Wow.
Stars swirling. And then in the distance, I saw a wormhole. And it was like an orange and blue kind of like wormhole. And I was like, oh, what is that? So I floated over there and I rode through this wormhole. Like, have you guys ever seen Contact?
No.
With Jodie Foster? It's a good movie. It's from like the 90s. But when she like goes through a wormhole, it like looked exactly like that. Just like all these colors and just swirling.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
So on the other side of this wormhole, I'm in outer space again, and then a black puff of smoke appears, and from that black puff of smoke comes an eye. And at first I thought it was like maybe like an elephant eye, because it was like kind of wrinkly.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But that might be your spirit
no,
animal.
but then I saw a little bit of the face, just a little bit,
human.
And it was me.
But
it was like an older.
Okay.
It was like an older version of me.
Wow.
And it said to me, it's okay. And I was like, all right. And then it came and dissolved into my face. Then I was in a place that looked like Pride Rock from Lion King.
That's crazy.
And I know that this guided meditation, it was called a blue light healing meditation.
Oh, interesting.
So at this point, it was like Pride Rock, but it was nighttime. And on the other side of the big rock, I saw like this twinkling bright blue light. And I was like, oh, what is that? And it kind of like made me a little scared. So I was like, I don't really like this. And just when I thought like, I don't really like this, I like dropped down into a black and white like version of the room that I was actually in.
Wow.
And it was like, and I don't watch like scary movies or anything like that. And my brother was like, it was like from, was it Insidious? I don't know. One of these movies where it's like when they go into this other realm, it's like a black and white kind of you know what it was like? It was like in Lord of the Rings when Frodo puts on the ring and everything's kind of like, whoosh, right? So it was kind of like that, but it was a black and white version of the room that I was actually meditating in. And I looked over to the right, and there was like a bunch of souls that were in like this hourglass shape.
Wow.
And they were just
That's
like
wild.
and they didn't look like people, they looked like ghosts. They were like,
Yeah.
"Ooh," like, you know, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck is that? And then from that came a woman who was dressed in like a 1950s like waitress or a nurse uniform, and she ran across the room to a door that was actually there in real life, and she was like frantically trying to open up the door.
Wow.
Like, and I looked at her and she looked at me and she was like trying to open it. And just about this time I was like, all right, this is really tripping me out. And just when I had that thought, whoosh, everything disappeared. The trippiest part about this, the very first time I ever meditated, I basically had just had a third eye activation, a throat chakra healing,
Wow.
and connected to like my ancestral spirit guides, essentially, right?
Wow.
And so the trippiest part about all this is that my brother was meditating the whole time, like 5 feet away from me. And I go up to him to tell him, like, yo, I just had this really crazy experience. And he looks up at me and he was like, was that your eye or my eye? Oh. So he experienced everything that I experienced, all the way up, the whole way through. And ever since then, I was like, what does this mean? And my brother was like, I don't know. I think that you're on a mission, though.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, all right, got to get clean. I got to fucking get my shit together. I got to start.
Like I said,
You know,
man, you got a
figuring this
strong
out.
antenna and you also got a strong projection, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate
for
that.
sure. And you said your buddy looked at you while you guys were tripping, right? And said that you'd been here many lifetimes.
No, it was actually, so that was another time I was doing DMT. We were actually doing DMT, MDMA, and mushrooms. And my buddy who originally did the DMT with me, like way back in the day, he was with me on this trip. And he was like doing this weird like dance in front of me, right? And like I was just like, whoa, you know, feeling good. And he's like, it's all for entertainment. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Wow. And then I took a big rip off the DMT pen, and like I saw him transform through like 20 different incarnations of himself.
That's crazy.
Like as like a witch, a Native American, a warlock, a troll thing with like a long nose. I saw him as a blue alien with scales.
Oh, damn.
And they were all so trippy. It was like I knew it was his past incarnations and his future incarnations, because they were like coming out of him. They were like, it was like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like, they were like connected to him, but like reverberating off of him. So it was like, yeah, it was really, really trippy. And then my other buddy who we were with said to my friend Matt, you've been here for many lifetimes, brother. You've been helping us for a long time. And that was right after I saw him like transform through all these things.
The cool thing about that is in every other timeline that you probably seen him in, he's in some room dancing in front of you. Dude.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, we all find each other, man. And like,
Yeah.
my buddy Matt, like he woke up when he was like 13. And like he had an experience where he had a dream where he went into his mom's bedroom and like found $20 in her drawer. And he's like, and then I woke up and I went in and it was there. And then this way before he'd done psychedelics or anything like that, right? And he's like, and then like a year later, he was like, I just started noticing like this grand orchestration of like everything that was happening in my life. That like everything was perfectly setting up for certain things.
He was noticing the pattern,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. And then he got into psychedelics, and then the rest is history.
Wow.
But he's the
Yeah.
one who's introduced like all of us to DMT, and like,
Nice. Nice.
Psychedelics makes you basically see the pattern because it rips the veil off.
it just
Yeah.
rips the veil
Yeah.
off, man. And it's we're in a very thin layer of the infinite realities right now.
Yes, sir. So let's say I was an artist and I'm like, Banks, man, I love what you do. I love your music. I love the knowledge you have and everything you do. I want to quit my 9-to-5 job. I want to, change, level up and shit. What's one piece of advice? Where do I start? If someone was going to ask you that, where do they start?
If it's fun, eventually it'll make you funds.
Okay.
I like that.
And it's just like the most important thing is to do it from love, not for love.
Okay.
And that's where so many people struggle with that.
Yeah.
We really want that external validation,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But as soon as if you're like chasing that, it's not sustainable,
Yeah.
right? Because you're doing it for love when you have infinite love from inside of you, you can give, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, if you're doing it from love, you're going to receive love. But yeah, so just do it from love, not for love, and just continue to explore. Don't chase your dreams. Don't follow stuff. No, just explore it and express it.
Okay.
It's very important because, like, we have mind, body, soul. There's 3 aspects of us, essentially. So, like, if you want to get a good mind, you got to meditate. If you want to have a good body, you got to exercise. And for the soul, it's all about creative expression.
Wow.
You have to do it.
Nice. And you are a spiritual mentor. You're a guru. People can go to you and get lessons and life. Can you talk about a little bit about that, about what you offer as far as that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I cover everything from, astral travel to remote viewing and meditation techniques. I can do tarot, numerology, but really my biggest gift is I see the like patterns in people's lives, and I can see what they can't see, which is that, a lot of times because of the fractal nature of this universe, the same lesson is getting repeated, but it looks different. It's the same but different, different, right? So I'm able to see that right away.
See the underlying.
And help them really work through that from within, Like, I can read tarot and like tell a fortune and all that kind of stuff, but like I'm more interested in helping people heal and remember who they are and be their authentic self. A lot of people come to me because they don't have anybody else they can talk to about this stuff.
Yeah.
People that are starseeds or that, they believe the aliens are talking to them. Like, and again, I mean, I've had alien experiences. One of my best friends is an ET soul in a human body, and I fully believe that. What I mean? Like, we see UFOs every time we go out with each other. And so, like, whatever it is, I mean, plenty of people come to me and they're saying crazy things, but then I just let them know, like, hey, sounds like your crown chakra's wide open, so you're tapped into all these different realities. You need to do grounding techniques so that you can be grounded in the reality that you prefer. And you can start
That's a good way to put it.
You can start peeking into the other realities rather than just being fucking wide open to them all. That's psychosis. That's schizophrenia.
Yeah.
It's a wide open crown chakra before you've worked through the other ones.
Yeah, when I first started realizing everything, I would just talk to this dude because I knew he wouldn't judge me.
Yeah.
But then it led him
isn't that a blessing?
Yeah. And then he started spinning the same stuff.
That's how it was with me and my brother too.
Yeah, he got me into a conspiracy podcast, and I started learning about Thoth, and I started researching Thoth for like a whole week, and then later my Kundalini opened and shit. I had like a whole vision. I'm doing like this yogic pose that I've never done before involuntarily, and I'm like Om chanting, and I'm like basically I was in the ether for a little bit. You know what I mean? And I came back down, and the first thing I thought was like, life's a trip.
He hit me up right after that.
That's amazing. So you kind of like initiated him in a lot of ways. That's really awesome. I mean, and that's why like you gotta. I was gonna say, like, one time I was doing research into plant magic, and I was just reading this book, and it was like, once you get into this, like, the spirits of the plants are gonna like come talk to you, you know. And I only read like 10 pages of this book. All right, I didn't get deep into it at all. And that night I had a vision, and it was of like basically who I see Mother Earth as.
Okay.
And she kind of looks like an elf, and she has like antlers, and she's kind of like made out of the earth, Yeah. And she was like so beautiful and had all this radiant light around her, and she was just like whoop whoop and came out, and I was like, whoa. And then my roommate at the time, who is really like one of my brother's friends, and like we got close, but not like super duper close or whatever. But like I was telling him, he's from Poland, so like they're all pretty spiritual out there. And I was like, yo, like I was reading this book, and like I saw this vision, and he was like, bro, I saw her too.
Oh wow.
He was like, last night, and
that's crazy.
So my point is that when you go down a rabbit hole, it's infinite, and it will continue to reveal itself to you.
Yeah.
So
when you look into the void.
Yeah, I mean, and it really is whatever you want to do. Yeah. Like, it's going to keep going. It's going to keep on revealing itself to you.
Nice.
So have fun with it.
Hell yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. It's been a super great episode. Yep. He took us down a super deep rabbit hole. The esoteric, the spiritual, the psychedelic, how they all intersect. It's been great, man. Can you go ahead and just let them know again where they can find you?
Yeah, Optimistic Banks. It's optimistic with a Y, like mystical.
Yes, sir.
Optimistic Banks.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes Music, SoundCloud, everywhere, all the time.
Check them out. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in to the Outside Minds podcast. This has been another episode. I'm your host and creator, CeeLo Free. This is the other host and creator,
Dot 420.
and we out.